going, and today's webinar is being recorded, so we'll get this posted online as well once we are ready, or once we've finished, and you'll be able to come back and review that at any one time. So here are the key things. Why would we go paperless? One of these will jump out to you, and you will enjoy all four of them, but one of these will stand out more in the first instance. But then as you actually go down this process, go into a paperless environment, you'll really start to realize all four of the paperless work environment. Number one is efficiency of why I go paperless, because we're able to now standardize the processes. We go into many accounting firms, particularly if there's 2 and 3 or 4 partners, and strangely 2, 3, 4 partners prepare tax returns ever so differently across the 4 partners, and that just brings in inefficiency, and it also your people really struggle with that, because they're just trying to work out, they're trying to do the best job that they can, but then also factor in that they've got to get they've also got to factor in everything going on with who are they preparing their returns for. Efficiency is definitely one of them, in that once the work comes in, we've standardized the process, all tax returns now get done exactly the same way. We also think flexibility is an important reason to go paperless. We want the information to be at our fingertips at all times, so that people can work from wherever they want, wherever they choose. That if, for example, on the East Coast, I think we've got snowstorms again, so we don't lose out days of work because people are having snow days, because people can't get to the office. Families might be sick and we can't come into the office, but in a paperless environment, it means that we have everything at our fingertips so that we can do the work wherever we are. So giving our people greater flexibility, particularly during a very stressful tax season, is definitely one of the benefits. And we'll show you some of the tools that allow you to manage the process remotely. And I think that's an interesting one as well, is because a lot of folks struggle with remote workforce and not being able to manage somebody's productivity. But in these paperless environments, we need communication tools and management tools so that we can see where the work is being done and how it's being done. Productivity, one of our members, Mike Milam, has always said, anytime I touch paper, I lose money. So productivity is really something that we're looking at here, because if we've got to get up and walk down a hallway, if we have to move pieces of paper, if we have to run around trying to find out the status of work, every time we get up out of our chair, it means our productivity takes a hit. And I'm not necessarily suggesting that we're running sweatshops and as soon as people sit down they can't get up, but there's nothing more frustrating than having the sitting down to do work and then all of a sudden having to get up and try and find paper, try and find forms, try and find information. So that's definitely something that we want to do. The less movement of paper and people enhances productivity in our office. And the last key benefit of going paperless is really client service. It's quicker turnaround and greater responsiveness. Previously, when a client would call in and say, what's the status of a project, I'd have to put them on hold or pretend that I was running into a meeting and run around the office trying to find where the work is, what the status of it is, what are the questions that we're still waiting on, and that was just inefficient. It was also not great client service, and that's something that we do want to look at, that when we're able to answer a client's questions there and then, it really enhances the level of service that we're providing to our clients. And that's definitely been the benefit of us going paperless. A lot of clients have just said, wow, you're just able to answer our questions more promptly. It looks like you're really on top of your game, and I'm happy to pay a premium for the turnaround, the responsiveness, and the level of service that I'm getting. So thank you very much. So client service definitely improves once we have the paperless environment rocking and rolling. And I think that's an important point as well in terms of the rocking and rolling. If this is something new for you, I'll be talking about gains of 30, 40, 50 minutes per tax return. You've got to manage your expectations. We're not going to realize and be the most efficient, be the most flexible, be the most productive, have the highest level of customer service in year one. It will improve dramatically year on year, but we've just got to manage our own expectations, because there's a learning curve. there's change. So change management is an important part of this process that I'd really like you to factor in. But now that we're 3 and 4 years into our paperless, into our OCR, we are seeing savings of 40 and 50 minutes per return. So I definitely think you will realize those types of improvements and enhancements, but let's not set ourselves up for failure with the expectation that once we implement the software, once we implement the program, we're going to see these massive gains in productivity and efficiency. That won't happen, but they will happen with time. And as long as we stick with the program, work through the kinks, improve the processes, then we're going to see quite dramatic improvements in efficiency, productivity, and also client service. So they're the reasons we go paperless. Here is paperless in a nutshell from a diagrammatic standpoint. The stuff comes in from the client. The stuff can come in any way, shape, or form, and we just encourage the client, just if it looks like something we might need, send it in. We send self-addressed envelopes to the client, so they might either drop the envelope in, they might either send it in, but we're encouraging our clients to get all of the stuff to us so we can do the return preparation prior to their tax interview, so to speak. So we'll get 70 to 80% of the return done before the tax interview when they actually come in and have a conversation. And that really allows us to talk about much more valuable things than working through each and every one of the forms that they hand over to us and key punching there and then. So that, from an efficiency standpoint, if you're in the shop of the client brings their stuff in and then you do the return there and then, that is not going to be an efficient way of getting the work done. But we have the paper come in from the client, doesn't make it past the front office. At the front office, we've got a Fujitsu 6130, and we just upgraded actually, or not upgraded, but it looks like that's been replaced by the Fujitsu 7130. So a nice dedicated scanner on key people's desks. Not everybody in the office needs that, but we'll talk about that shortly. So everything gets scanned. It then gets uploaded, run through some software. And the running through the software is what we call our OCR technology. So that's optical character recognition. And what the OCR technology does is it does all the sorting, does all the organizing of the paper, the working papers, according to the tax return, according to the tax organizer. So rather than us spending time shuffling papers on the front end and putting them into order, as we always do, the technology does that for us now. So not only is it happening by technology, but it's freeing up the time of what I would probably say skilled preparers, in that you do need some working knowledge of the tax return to put those papers in order. Whereas now, that doesn't happen. That just happens by technology, and everything comes back in order about 20 minutes later, in order of the tax return. And in our multiple monitor environment, we've got work papers, and we've got tax software, and we've also got last year's return. So we do the return in a paperless environment. So rather than the pile of paper being on the left-hand side here or being in front of us, it's on our left-hand monitor. And with the right technology, with the right software, we're able to make all the notes, all the amendments to any of those working papers, so that when we do go through the review process, we know exactly what was happening on our working papers. Exactly the same way as if we had a pile of papers in front of us and we were making notes on those papers, sticky notes, running stickers, running tickers, tapes, calculations, whatever it was. We're trying to replicate as much as possible the paper environment, but in a paperless environment. So why don't we just have a quick poll just to make sure people are on board at the moment. So let's just run a very quick poll. When do you scan? And so just give us some feedback in terms of the scanning process. Do you scan on the front end so you're completely paperless, so as soon as the paper comes in from the client, it gets into that digital format? Or do you prepare the returns in paper and then scan after the fact, and that's what we call scanning on the back end? Or we are paperful and we do not scan. So just give us some feedback just to let us know where you are in that going paperless process. And not surprisingly, most folks are saying that we prepare the returns in paper and then scan. So that's really what we call a back-end scanning process, and it's about 2/3 and 1/3. So no real surprises there. That's probably what we are seeing out there in the industry. And our goal is to get all that scanning done on the front end. And then also, for those folks that are scanning on the front end, is this process as efficient as possible? So we'll have a look at that a little bit in a little bit, particularly with the software that we're using to replicate the paper environment. Is that as efficient as possible? Once we've prepared the return, we then send it into our filing cabinet. That's an electronic filing cabinet or a document management system. And good document management systems definitely help people organize the papers, get everything in one location. So there's a couple of different vendors that are out there, but we just want something that's going to be easy to find everything, and we've got a number of folks that we definitely recommend there. So let's have a look at the hardware. Let's good scanners. As I said there, the Fujitsu 6130 is the one that we've been using, but Fujitsu's just come out with a 7130 and ordered a couple of those the other day, so they should be arriving this week. So I'll give you an update as to how they perform. But what we want is these smaller individual scanners at the important locations in the office. We've done it a couple of different ways in our own office. First, we had that big unit that sat out the back and scanned a couple of hundred pages a minute type thing, but it was a bottleneck because all the work would just line up behind it as we were scanning it through, and so someone was, in the heat of tax season, spending a lot of time just stood at that scanner. And it would basically be first come, first serve, so getting the working papers back to the preparers to get the tax return underway was a slow process. So we then went the other end of the spectrum and we put scanners on every single person's desk. And that was okay, but what we just realized in terms of, for our office, not everybody in the office needed one. And so what we did is we made sure that there were a couple of scanners within, say 5 yards, 10 yards, so that if people did need to get to a scanner, they could get to a scanner. The people on our front desk, they all have scanners, so reception, so there's 3 people out there, they all have scanners, and then there's just a couple of others dotted around the office for those that need them, just in case if we can't get it to the front desk to scan, then we're able to scan things very promptly and keep things moving. So the Fujitsu 6130 is probably, I think, the industry leader, and it's probably whoever you talk to is probably what they're recommending. But as I said, the Fujitsu 7130 is coming into the marketplace now. So I'll let you know how we get on with the 71. On the other aspect from the hardware, we need multiple monitors, and my theory is the more the merrier. And you can see one of our office configurations down there, and we've got the big Samsung. They're 24-inch, and what they're able to do is we can rotate or pivot them so that they can be in a portrait mode and also in a landscape mode. So this is really handy, particularly for the working papers. We've got the tax software, and then we might have last year's return sitting on that screen. So why don't folks just enter into the question box there. How many monitors do you have? 1, 2, 3, 4? Just give me some feedback. I'm seeing a few more firms adding that 4th monitor there. Most firms are going in to have 2, and probably the more advanced firms are on 3 monitors now, and then we are seeing some with 4 and 5. But what we found is you can always find something to put on that other monitor. So as I said, if it's the working papers on the left, Lacert tax software in the middle, and then maybe last year's return on the right, you might also want your practice management or email open on another monitor. So you can see that the number of monitors will increase. Those folks that went from 1 monitor to 2 monitors, we can expect that same level of productivity bump when we go from 2 to 3 as we went from 1 to 2. I don't think it's as high if we go from 3 to 4, but it's definitely going from 1 monitor to 2 monitors. We're seeing that somewhere between 15 to 20% jump in productivity, and we're seeing pretty similar jump when we go from 2 to 3. So if we've been in a 2-monitor environment for a while, it might be time to go up to a 3rd, particularly if we really want to take this whole thing paperless on the front end. If we're going to be sticking in the paper environment and scan on the back end, 2 monitors might be more than enough. because we're not using one of those monitors for the working papers. The working papers are directly in front of us. So they're the hardware considerations, good scanners and multiple monitors. And the Fujitsu 6171, they're about $1,000, somewhere between $800 and $1,200 just on Amazon. That will pay for itself this tax season. And then also the monitors. I mean, we picked up some more of these Samsung style. They were just the refurbished ones for about $150, and just on Amazon as well. And they will pay for themselves within the first couple of weeks of tax season. So definitely look at the hardware, and if there's anything that we've got to upgrade, if we've got to spend some money, now's the time to do it. Then we look at the software aspect of it, and this really is OCR technology, where we're scanning. The technology then organizes everything for us. It then goes the next step to scan, organize, and populate the tax return. Now, I'm going to use the, in our CPA practice, we have Lacert here, so I'm going to share our experiences of using it with Lacert, but obviously all the various providers have different OCR products that are out there, and I'd certainly have some opinions on which ones are better than others, but you'll definitely want to talk with your tax software provider just to find out what they have in the OCR area. Then the other organization that I'd like you to check out is 1040 Scan by SurePrep. That's what we use in our office, and as I said, we use Lacert and 1040 Scan. We tried Intuit's tax import, and we had a look at Gruntworks, and the level of accuracy and the ease with which you worked the working papers dramatically different to 1040 Scan, and we'll have a look at that in a little bit. But CCH Autoflow, a couple of our members were using that, and we had one of our focus group meetings the other day, very positive with regards to CCH Autoflow. And then, as I said, the Intuit Tax Import and Gruntworks didn't work for us, but I've definitely checked them out as well. One of the things that is interesting, however, and a key differentiator between 1040 Scan and actually the rest of the providers, and that is this: how we work with the working papers. So that's the key question we've got to ask. How easy is it to manipulate and annotate the working papers? And our goal is to mimic a paper environment. Up in CCH Autoflow, Gruntworks, Intuit Tax Import, the working paper manipulation is done in Adobe. So that's Adobe, where we can bring pages in, where we make annotations. That happens in Adobe, and Adobe wasn't created for tax preparation, so it is a little bit clunky. Whereas 1040 Scan, they have what they call their SP binder, and we'll have a look at it shortly, but the SP binder allows us to work in a dynamic environment, and also means that we don't need additional licensing for Adobe, for example, or an Adobe plugin such as PDF Flyer or TickTime Calculate. Those are all additional software licenses that you do need. Not a huge amount of money by any means, but it's just another thing that we've got to monitor. We did it with a couple of firms, and one firm over in North Carolina, in Asheville, they said they went back to back-end scanning because what was happening was Adobe and the Adobe plugin, it just wasn't as seamless as they had hoped. So they, for example, if the client sends more information to us, we would have to scan that. We would then have to insert that page into the PDF, which could then change the naming convention, the numbering convention. If the client sent us an updated 1099 or updated spreadsheets, we would then have to delete a page and then insert a new page. So all of these things, while they weren't cumbersome individually, when we added them all up together, we were looking at 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 minutes per tax return. And you think about that, if a firm's doing that 100, 200 times, those minutes add up, and that's where we're losing the efficiency. So when we move them over to the SP binder, dramatically different experience, because the technology was a dynamic environment that we were able to drag and drop, and the technology, the software, took care of everything else. So that's just something to think about when we're looking at the various providers. Remember that we'll need additional licensing for our Adobe Standard and Adobe plugins, and then also just remember what it's like working in that environment. So definitely do the trials. Maybe use a couple of returns from last year this week to get some of those trials done. As I said, what we want to do is mimic that paper environment as much as possible. So that's where we're looking at, how do I make annotations? How do I just take out an updated 1099 or delete a 1099 and bring in the updated 1099? How do I do all of these things in the electronic environment that I'm used to doing in the paper environment? So what we're going to do is we're going to look at SurePrep's 1040 scan, and as I said, it's what we're using in the office, and this is just the process. I'm going to take you through the process. Gruntworks has a slightly different process. CCH AutoFlow has a slightly different process, but not that different, interestingly. So the process is fairly similar. So what happens here, on your screen there, you've got the SurePrep dashboard, and what we've done is we've identified the source documents. So that's all of the information that's come in from the client. We've just scanned all of that, and we don't sit on it and wait until the client brings us everything. Once they bring the bulk of it, it gets scanned in, and the process starts, the preparation process starts. What we've also done here is we've also identified where the tax files are. And that's really interesting because that's actually going to go in to last year's tax return and build a pro forma based on what we did for the client last year. So on this screen, this is once the SP binder comes into place. So we scan all the documents. We then upload them to 1040 Scan. That's a web-based platform that goes onto their server farm in Irvine, California, and it's incredibly secure, and it's got all the certifications and everything that you need there. So it's a very safe and secure environment. And then the nice thing as well is it's not happening on our servers. So we're not tying up resources while we're doing the whole process of scanning and organizing. CCH AutoFlow, that sits on your server environment in your office. So it will tie up resources. But again, the feedback from the members that we spoke with wasn't a great deal of resources tying up, and the time was pretty good as well in terms of getting it back. So then what happens is the job's in process, then it comes over to jobs pending in review, and this is when we download it back to our workstation with the SP binder. And on the left-hand side here, you've got the tree of documents based on what's been scanned and what we did for them previously. So that's quite exciting for us, and this goes back to that client service tip before as well. When everything comes in from the client and we scan it, we get a missing items email to them that same day or within 24 hours at the latest. So that's been huge from we know what we're doing, we're organized, our clients really like that level of responsiveness. Because previously, it would take us maybe 6 weeks to get that email to them because the client would drop their stuff in, we'll call it stuff, they'll drop their stuff in in maybe mid-February, but then we wouldn't actually get that missing documents email to them by mid-March. And you can imagine the client's response of, what the hell have you been doing for the last month? I dropped that in 4 weeks ago and now you're just telling me what's missing. So that's been really nice that it gets scanned, it gets organized, we very quickly identify what's missing, and we send that email to them that same day or within 24 hours. That has dramatically improved our client service, and we actually get referrals based on that alone, based on the speed with which we get back to the clients. And so that's a big thing for us, and that's the software doing it. We haven't had to do anything. The software basically has come in and identified what we did last year. So this is the tree of the documents that have been scanned in, but also it looked at what we did last year. So we've got the W-2 wages, so we've got in blue here, and then we've also got in black. So in black are the actual documents that we've identified, whereas blue is what we did last year, but we don't have anything. So immediately we can identify what's missing. Now, interestingly, down here we've got the business and the Jill's Craft Shop. What we do there is we did stuff for them last year, but there's no standard documents related to Jill's Craft Shop. but they're here in Word document and Excel. So the clients emailed us these documents, and we've literally just dragged them from the email and dropped them into this middle section here. And this middle section is all the documents that the OCR didn't recognize. Our experience was it'll recognize 95% of the standard documents, and anything else just gets stuck in the middle here. And so that's what we said when we decided to scan everything. So what we decided was that it's much easier to scan everything. What gets organized, and everything that sits in here is then what we have to make a decision. So some we would just right-click and delete because a client might have sent us an article, clipped an article that they thought we might be interested in, or it might not be related to anything we're doing. Alternatively, the Excel spreadsheets, the Word document, I think that's an email down there, we can just drag and drop them now to the appropriate spot. So we remember Jill's Craft Shop's gone into the business, and that last one there was the medical expenses, so it's gone into the itemized deductions. This is something really interesting. The client has sent us one spreadsheet with three, and we can see that by Anderson Expenses 2011.xls. So they've sent us one spreadsheet, but we've been able to move the three sheets, the three worksheets, to different parts of the tax return. So that's been really exciting and something we've never seen before, that we are able to just drag and drop individual sheets within the one document, so that if we went to that, we would go directly to that Excel spreadsheet. Another thing as well that's really interesting is that the Excel spreadsheets, the Word documents, they're all still dynamic. And by dynamic means that I can go in and make changes to that Excel spreadsheet. All of these pages are still dynamic. Granted, a W-2 is quite static in that there's no more information on it, but if we needed to drag and drop that anywhere, if it was in the wrong location, for example, if we needed to move the company financials up to another part in the document tree, the forms tree, then we would be able to do that easily. It wouldn't impact any of the naming conventions. The pagination would change automatically, and that is something that we don't see in the Adobe products. So the products that are using Adobe as their document manipulation and their working papers management, they don't have that same level of flexibility where we can have a live Word document, a live Excel spreadsheet working throughout the forms tree. So that's just, again, one of the reasons that we do like 1040 scan. So next, what we've got to do is we've got to look at all of our stamps and annotations, and this is where we're talking about standardization. We can obviously customize anything that we want as well, but it's really important that we standardize how we use these stamps, and that's going to really help the review process. It's also really going to help when we come back to do the return next year, to familiarize ourselves with what we did. So you'll want to make sure that you've got really good stamps and really good levels of annotation so that you can get as much information onto the working papers, so that whoever's reviewing them or preparing them, or reviewing them this year, preparing them next year, can see exactly what was going through the preparer's mind as they prepared the return. So it's really the same way in which we get as much information onto the working papers, and typically we in our old paper environment, we photocopied them and then put tapes on them and made all various annotations, and then we filed them away. We're now doing that in the paperless environment, and this has really helped the standardization of the tax return in our office. This is some really cool technology as well, that we're putting a calculator, an alphanumeric calculator, directly onto that Word document. So the company financials for Jill's Craft Shop, we are putting this calculator directly onto the document, all time-stamped, who was the preparer that did it, so that we can see exactly what's going through the preparer's mind, how they're making the calculations, have they double-checked this information, or they've got the source documents for it, for example, and then putting the tick marks appropriately. So that's something that we haven't seen before either, this alphanumeric character that really gets so much more information onto the working papers. Here we see those spreadsheets, and what we've got here as well, we've got reference to 130625 in the Jill's Craft Shop. So here we've got more information relating to the office expenses. So we have just cross-referenced these two. So when I click on 20, it'll take me directly to wherever it's cross-referenced. So we have a large amount of cross-referencing throughout the documentation, again, so they can just take us very quickly to the source document that we were looking at as a part of the decision-making process. So this cross-referencing, again, it just saves us a lot of time, that we're not having to scroll through different things, we're not having to thumb through different pages as well, and we can be much more efficient so that I can see exactly what was going through their mind when they put this information onto the tax return or wherever it was going. So again, this level of management of the working papers, we just haven't seen that before in any of the other providers. So one of the other reasons that we're really liking 1040 Scan more and more. So what we have here, this is the forms with no documents. So we're up in the forms tree, and this is what we see immediately, that W-2, 1099 interest, 1099 div, and the pension and annuity information. We did it last year, but there's nothing there this year. So within 4 clicks, we can get an email to the client immediately to say, dear client, who have we got there? Dear Jack, thanks for dropping everything in today. Just as we started preparing, we noticed a couple of items were missing. Can you please update us as to whether or not we should be expecting the following documents? And then what happens is we have this management tool within the SP Binder to keep track of those conversations. So we've got the missing documents, and we can just click email, and that email will go out automatically. So go out through Outlook, so that the client will then get an email from you saying, thanks very much for dropping the information in, here's what we need. The client calls back and says, no longer working at the Stanford Group, and we can enter this information in to the SP Binder. So then these become part of the working papers, so that this information is now stored within the working papers, and we've got missing item notes, we've got permanent notes, we've got review notes. So all of the questions can be asked as you're preparing. So someone might be stuck at home looking after a sick child. They're still able to get into the working papers, see all the questions, see all the review notes, see the missing item notes. So it's not necessarily what's stuck in my head, because I was the one that the client said that they're no longer working at Stanford Group Company. All the information, or as much information as possible, gets into the SP Binder, so that whoever's in the SP Binder working on Jack Anderson has all of the information that they need. So a nice little working management tool that helps us just keep track of everything, provide a higher level of service, and really allow good communication within the firm, so that we get as much information in our minds down into the working papers. So some nice tools there as well, which has been good. Another area which is really nice is 4 levels of review. We've only got 3 there, but basically as we mark these, yes, we've reviewed them, or yes, we've prepared them, they change color. And so there's a full audit trail in there that says Damien Greathead reviewed this, the Citigroup Global Markets, on the 21st of March at 9:52 p.m. So it has this full audit trail of exactly where we are in the tax return, exactly what level of sign-off we are. So it's been a nice tool to really keep track of where we are. And I know Bob Goodman over on on the East Coast, he said that he loves this review section, because he comes to the return and knows exactly where he is. He doesn't need to take 10-15 minutes every return to just familiarize himself with where he was. Also, the staff can't run and hide, because with every note that's reviewed, there's the audit trail. So if a team member has signed off on a particular document, then it's their initials, their name sitting right beside it. So we know exactly where somebody might be having some technical issues that we might need to give some additional training on. Also, we've got an audit trail in there that says, look, you said you did it, but here's the mistake that was made. So we can't run nor hide when we look at our preparation. We can't say I'm 70% done, but then come into this level of review and it only says, ooh, well, according to this, we're only about 30% done. So again, much higher level of transparency of all work in the office. So I think that's really critical. Then what happens, and this is the final step of the scan and organize aspect, what we then do is we then finalize our working papers. So up until now, that tree of documents is a dynamic folder of documents, just as if you had a pile of paper in front of you that you can move things around, delete things, insert things. We can do that in the SP binder. Now what we do, once that tax return is ready to be filed and we don't need these working papers anymore, we then print the SP binder, and we have a couple of options here. We can print the bookmarks with bookmarks and stamps. We can print bookmarks only or no stamps. And then we can also include any notes that we've made as well. So what we're doing now is we're printing 2 copies. The first copy is, and this is when it is printed to PDF. So the first document is printed to PDF, and it has the bookmarks with stamps and the notes. That goes into our document management system so that for the working papers. What we then do is we print another copy, and it's printing to an electronic file, and we just print it with the bookmarks only. And then we're putting that back into the client's portal to say, your tax return's ready, or we're in the final stages of preparation, and we've actually gone in and organized all the documents, and it's there sitting in the portal. If you ever need to access them, those documents are all there for you, all nicely organized. And we've had a couple of comments from clients that say, wow, I really didn't expect this level of service, that you got all my documents, put them all in order, scanned them, made them electronic, bookmarked everything. You guys really have it together. And again, this is what they tell their friends, that we not only got that missing items email out to them within 24 hours, but we also had all the documents there for them in an electronic format, all nicely organized for whenever they needed them. So now this portal is really a year-round type service that we provide to clients, and they pay for it as well. Provide to clients, because now they can access their tax returns, all their source documents are all stored there as well. So it's a part of the ongoing service that we're making available to our clients, and our clients they're definitely enjoying it, and they're seeing us really taking a step above what they expected. And it's also helping them, because they're certainly looking to be more efficient, helping them become paperless. And so what we've actually started doing with some folks is we just, you gave us your documents, what would you like us to do with them? And now that we've been doing this for 2 and 3 years, we're just shredding them on behalf of our clients. Come the end of tax season, we invite people over, have fire up the barbecue, have a few drinks to celebrate the end of tax season, and invite clients to bring anything that they want shredded, bring that to the office, and we have a shredding party, and it's all a bit of fun. Why don't we have a quick poll here, and let's go into, have you tried OCR technology? Just let me know if it's something that you've used, and is it working well? Or yes, but the accuracy wasn't there that you were looking for. And I'd definitely agree, depending on when you tried, the technology has come leaps and bounds from where it was 3 years, 5 years. So definitely don't count it out. So let's close that there. And we're about 2/3, 1/3. Yes, but the accuracy wasn't there, or no. So what I'd encourage you to do is, there's a couple of different levels of this scan, organize, and populate. And this first one, scan and organize, might just be your first step into this paperless environment. So we might just get everything organized, and then we would still do the actual, there wouldn't be any population, so to speak, of the tax software. So this scan and organize, where we have the SP binder, all the documents coming in, the tree, the level of review, that comes in at about $10 per return. And we cannot do it for anywhere near that cost. If we were to do that with a person. So that's definitely a good stepping stone for people that maybe have tried it but the accuracy wasn't there, or if they've never tried it at all, this might be the good stepping stone where we test 100 returns at $10 a return. There's $1,000 there, and we can just work the scan and organize and become really comfortable with that this tax season. If we're in the summer and we could say, look, let's just do the scan and organize for what we've got left on extension, then we'd get familiar with it. But if this is our first foray into it, we might just do scan and organize. And as I said, for $10 per return, there's no way that we can get it done any cheaper than that. So definitely just think there's different levels in terms of scan and organize, and then what we're going to talk about now is scan, organize, and populate. And I would say that when we first started 5 years ago, the accuracy was a little bit off, but it has improved quite dramatically in recent years. So definitely, and we just know as the leaps and bounds smartphones have made, for example, that the technology is getting better and better. Another reason that we do like 1040 Scan is the owner of 1040 Scan, SurePrep, they do about 30 to 40,000 of their own returns, and they put 30 to 40,000 returns through 1040 Scan. So the actual makers of the product are in it every single day, working on bugs, fixing things, working the processes, whereas some of the other providers, Intuit, for example, they're not using it on a day-to-day basis. You, the accountant, are the one that's using it. So that we just don't see the same level of attention to detail in some of their products. But let's look at Scan, Organize, and Populate now. And what we're doing is where the software is going to read standard documents. So the W-2s, the 1099s, the first page of the K-1s. We also see the brokerage statements, and it does a tremendous job on the brokerage statements for Schedule D. Charitable contributions. Interestingly, it picks up the dollar amount on the charitable contributions and the charity number. So that's been, and they can just be coming from standard letters. Federal organizer pages, strangely, if your clients, and we don't actually have that many clients anymore that actually fill their organizer in, they the 1040 Scan picks that up, so that's been quite impressive. What we see is greater documents, greater efficiency, and 1040 Scan, I think, has the largest library of documents that it reads. There'll still be a few ones out there that it doesn't, but generally speaking, it does a very good job on the standard documents. So also what happens is built into the software's advanced logic and business rules, and we find that the business logic here probably comes in at about a second year preparer, where we've got the software to identify superseded and duplicate data. The software calculates the state exempt amounts, automates the 1116 entry. So it's quite sophisticated software that on the first pass does a very good job of the data verification and the association of 1098s, 1099s, etc. So it does a very good job of verifying the information internally, doing the calculations internally. But the key step is verification. We can't just throw it into the software and expect to get it right 100% of the time. It'll do a pretty good job, but we can't just then put our feet up and oh, the job's been done because we've got a lot of green over here. But what's happening is we've got our source document up the top here, and then we've got our entry form here, which is what it's going to use to then send it to Lacert or then send it to the software or whatever tax software you're using. So what it's done here is it's reading 815.20, 770.23. So when it colors them in green, it's identified and it's confident to, I think, a 95 percentile that it's got it right. But whoever's verifying can quickly come up here and see if a mistake has been made. Then they would have to fix that. Or if it's got it all right and they're happy with it, we just go here and click Reviewed, and then that just changes the color over on the other page to say Damien Great has reviewed all this and has verified that it picked up all the right pieces of information. That can happen at a doesn't need a partner, doesn't need a seasoned CPA to be doing this level of verification. This can be done at an administrative level. Maybe somebody that's had a couple of tax seasons under their belt, has good attention to detail, but they can go through and just verify these pieces of information. So yellow, confident. The double ticks are confident up to 99.9 because it's done the cost basis calculations over here. So it's confident that it's got those correct. But again, anything in yellow is not confident. That you'll definitely want to double check, but I would just stress you really need to check every single number that's being read that it's got it correct, and then we hit that reviewed button to say that we've got it right. So this is from a brokerage statement, and it does an incredibly good job on the brokerage statements of reading these and then populating the information down here. But as I said, that can be done at an administrative level, not at a high charge rate level. So hopefully you can see that we're moving work to different parts of the office based on the particular task. And at this level of review, I think someone with good attention to detail and knows the ins and outs of the tax code, but knows the ins and outs of a Lacert, or in this case a ProSystems FX up here. So that's what we'd be wanting to do. And review process, we can review very quickly versus entering the information ourselves. So once we've done that, once we've gone through and we're up to 15 of page 28, once we've done that, we can then export that to the tax software. So what's happening is the documents are getting organized, the tax software is getting populated to a certain extent, all before high-level preparers, reviewers have even touched it. And that's the real key here, that the technology is taking over the organization and population so that when it gets to the experienced, seasoned professionals, they can really do some valuable reporting, or that's when their value comes to play. Their value isn't in the actual keying of this information into the tax software. So once we've gone through and verified all the information, and we've clicked through here up to all of our pages, that's when we're going to submit it and send it over to our Lacert tax software. It's fallen over a couple of times, and it's been interesting when we've seen firms not be successful with this. They haven't been successful because they haven't done this verification step, or they got to page 15 of 28, everything was right, and so you know what, I'm just going to click, 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 and get through. Everything so far is right, so I'm just going to make the assumption that everything else is right. That's when things fail. And then we can also go, when we've gone into firms to look at it, and when we've had a look at the audit trail, we'll see that it took them maybe, let's say, 45 minutes to review the first 15 pages, and then 3.5 minutes to review the next 15 pages with it. Ooh, hang on, Damien, were you just flicking through here, or did you really review these properly? So that good audit trail there has helped us from a what went wrong standpoint. But as I said, the accuracy is remarkable, and it's improving every year. And we spoke with some folks, some member firms, and now that they're in 2 and 3 years of the program, they're reporting 50, 60 minutes of savings per return. And that is really in that, the population, the organization, and then the verification. That's where they're getting the real time savings, because we're moving away from having to enter that data, where a lot of the mistakes are actually made as a result of data entry. So then once we've exported it to the tax software, we go through exactly the same process as we did before, where we export everything to PDF finally. And that, where we're looking at the scan, organize, and populate, comes in at $30 a return. And again, for that $30 to get that return 60 to 70% populated, we can't do it for any cheaper in our own office. So that's definitely something that we've noticed, that the $30, it gets that tax return 70% populated and saves us about 50 to 60 minutes per return. So we're seeing some really good time savings, some cost savings, and then just efficiency, just able to get work in and out the door so much more efficiently has really made a difference in the lives of our people and also our clients in terms of that level of responsiveness. Key considerations, just wrapping up. Whatever solution you're looking at, how well does it replicate the paper environment? What we know is Adobe was not meant for tax preparation, and those plugins, the TickTime Calculate and PDF Flyer, they're trying to make Adobe do something that it wasn't built to do. So definitely something to think about, and give us a call because we can definitely share our experiences or other members' experiences with you. What we want to do is we want to make sure to make our own lives easier is keep files in the native or dynamic format for as long as possible. So that means we're keeping it in that Excel spreadsheet, the Word document. We're able to move information in and out very quickly. We're able to very easily delete and bring in more information. So that's something that we do want to be looking at. We also want to use the best of breed OCR. So 1040 Scan works with all the major tax softwares, whereas obviously the Intuit product only works with Intuit products. Thomson's product only works with Thomson. And it just doesn't have the same level of resources or attention that a best of breed just OCR technology does. So that's something that we want to look at. Remember that the quality of your scan will impact the quality of your OCR. So get the technical guys in just to get really good quality scans, because that will make a dramatic difference. And when you do buy your scanners, you'll want to make sure that you run the extra software, which is you want to get the extra software, which is I think it's Covar or Kofax or something along those lines, and make sure that always comes in the box. Make sure you run that as well, and that will improve the quality of your scans quite dramatically. Take out watermarks, change pink sheets of paper to white, take out any color so that the scan quality is dramatically improved. And then what we want to do is we want to make sure we improve the quality of our working papers throughout the firm. So how do we get as much information out of our heads onto the working papers for the preparers, for the reviewers, for whoever is actually looking at it? That is what is key here. If you go to sureprep.com/2020, there's special, and I think you'll get 10 free units of the Scan and Organize so that you can test it and you can try it and you can see how it's going to work in your office. sureprep.com/2020 will outline the special offers there. And given where we are in the year, what I'd be inclined to do is just go into some of last year's returns, run a couple of those through as your test units just to see how it works and experience it. And I think once you see the you'll see that see the process in action with returns that you've already done now that you've got a little bit of time up your sleeve. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave it there. It doesn't look like any questions have come through, but what I hope I've been able to give you today is an overview of the paperless process, the key considerations that we need from our software and hardware, and then also just understanding the steps that we have to take within our office so we can systemize the tax return preparation process. As I said, the more we systemize it, the better we are going to, the more we systemize it, the better our working papers will be, the better our workflow will be, the higher level of client service we were providing. So what I suggest is get on to sureprep.com/2020, test the free 10 units of Scan and Organize, and then give us a call, ask questions, let us know how it's working in our office. But we've got the situation that no decision is made on the front desk except it gets scanned and uploaded into 1040 Scan. So whether that's the simplest tax return all the way through to the most complex individual return, it all goes through the same process so that we can be much more efficient moving work through our office. So definitely test it. Give me a call with your questions. Let me know how we're doing here. As I said, the recording, we'll stop that now. The recording will go online onto our YouTube channel. this afternoon, so jump on our YouTube channel and check that out. But if you do have any questions, please let me know and let us know what we can do to help make tax season a little less stressful, a little more efficient, a little more profitable for you. So, ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful day and look forward to hearing how tax season goes for you. Thank you, folks.